Hello, lovely friend. I am Dr. Mary Barson.
And I'm Dr. Lucy Burns.
We are doctors
and weight management and metabolic health experts.
And this is the Real Health and Weight Loss Podcast. Hello, beautiful friend. Dr. Mary here. And today I am joined by my fabulous, gorgeous, beautiful colleague, Dr. Lucy Burns. Dr. Lucy, how are you today?
I'm really, really well, Maz, really well. Had a cracker of a sleep, which always cheers me up. It's so funny. In the olden days, I used to always talk about my sleeping being my superpower. Honestly, I never had a bad sleep unless I had to get up to, go to an airport or something. But otherwise, ever since menopause came along, my sleep is less guaranteed, which is sort of a tiny bit sucks. But anyway, it is way better than it was during the throes of perimenopause, that's for sure.
Yep, this is all the things that are soon to come before me. So I hear you.
I know. As you train for menopause, I do love that you mentioned the other day that you're training.
I am training for menopause.
Yeah. And I know this isn't the topic of our conversation, but it is really, really important that people do that they try and get their health as well as possible before the menopause transition, and that once they've been through menopause, they really, really need to focus on what we call the successes for success, because menopause really does impact women's metabolic hormones. So, the successes, just a quick note, because we're actually going to move on to mindset, but the successes for people: S1, sustenance.
S2, stress management.
S3 is sleep.
S4, strength.
S5, sunlight.
S6, social connection.
Absolutely. So all of those S's contribute to your well-being, and all of them need to be optimized, whether you're pre, peri, or post-menopause. But the thing that I guess wraps around all of those, that's the knowledge, the knowing. But the thing that wraps around all of them is the doing. So yes, knowledge is important, but if you don't implement, then the knowledge is almost useless.
That's right. And key to implementation is managing your beautiful, tricky, slippery, amazing mind management.
Indeed, it is. And it is. It does remind me of, I don't know, there's some sort of analogy about an octopus in an orange bag. And I can't actually remember the exact analogy, but it is, your brain is a bit like that. Like you've got it in this bag, you think it's all wrangled up. But, if you're thinking about an orange bag as one of those sort of netting bags, and the octopus can just sort of sneak a tentacle out and, kind of just go rogue.
And just eat a few cream crackers before you even realise what's happened.
Yeah.
That's
and
right.
For many people, it does feel like that. It feels like your mind is going rogue and just, people think my mind has a mind of its own.
That's right. It kind of does. It
does. But look, underlying some of this is what we call, stories. And so we thought we're going to do a series on the stories or underlying beliefs that you might not even realize you have, that have come about because of particularly social conditioning and marketing messages. So we thought we'd start the ball rolling with a really, really common one. And I don't know if you grew up with this, Maz, but I grew up with you have to eat everything on your plate because there are children starving in Africa.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So again, it might not be Africa, depending on which part of the world you're from. It might have been India. It might be something else. But and the messaging behind it was to try and get, I think, children to recognize that they need to be grateful for food, that they're privileged, that they're, lucky because they've got food available when there are people in the world without food.
A consequence of this "you have to eat everything on your plate" story is that we can feel guilt and shame if we don't eat everything on our plate, guilt and shame because we've got food in front of us. It can create all kinds of stories. But one of the biggest ones, the way in which it is unhelpful for us as grown-up women, is that we will eat food to get rid of it when we don't necessarily need it.
Totally. And there's multiple scenarios in which this occurs. So certainly you might have served yourself a plate full of food and you might be halfway through and actually think that you're full. you just sort of push through. So your brain goes, oh, well, we've got to eat it all. It's on the plate, children starving in Africa. And so your brain's sending you a signal, like it's sending you a satiety signal. It's saying, I'm full, and you're ignoring it. And honestly, after years and years of this, the brain goes, oh, I'm not going to bother telling you I'm full anymore because you're not even listening to me. So you do lose touch with your intuition or your satiety signaling in many cases.
Yes. This scarcity mindset can rear its head in many ways. It's not just us eating beyond our hunger cues, eating beyond our physiological requirements because we put it on our plate and therefore we have to eat it. It can spill out into other areas of our lives. And I fall into this particular trap quite a lot. As a mum, you feed your kids and they don't eat their dinner. And then there's the food on the plate and I feel compelled to eat it. And I just need to be aware of that. Sometimes I choose to, very mindfully, to eat their food, particularly the meat. I don't want the meat to go to waste. But it's like if I used to think that, my body is my temple, we want to feed our body. There's something a bit reminiscent about my body as a garbage bin if I'm eating my children's leftovers. And this is a key point, is that we don't want to treat our body like the bin.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, Maz, because even within that sentence, you said, I don't want the meat to go to waste. So it is absolutely engraved in our brain that food that we don't eat, no matter what it is somehow wasteful. Now, I understand exactly where you're coming from because I am particularly keen on, particularly if we're eating animal proteins, that, an animal has sacrificed its life, this is nutrient-dense food. We definitely don't want to be wasting it. But it's interesting how our brain goes, we'll apply that message to all foods, no matter what, but also that the idea that, well, if we're not wasting it, so throwing it out is clearly wastage in our brain, whereas eating it is not necessarily wastage in our brain.
Yes. But then if it's extra food that we don't need, then it just sort of creates other problems that we have to get rid of. So either we're getting rid of it, before we eat it, or we're dealing with the long-term consequences of eating it once we do. So it is an important, I think, a mantra that we have at Real Life Medicine, that my body is not the bin, your body is not the bin, is a useful one to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you're eating it only to then have to get rid of it later, well, it's sort of a waste. Again, depending on the type of food. So a couple of strategies that I will use to avoid food wastage, particularly around high nutrient, expensive food, is I now use small plates, serve myself small bits of food. The deal being, if I'm still hungry, I can go back and get another serve. But it means that I don't plow through to finish the food just because it's on my plate. And the other thing with, depending on the food, is you can just put it in the fridge and heat it up later. Like, we're so lucky these days. We have fridges. Who knew?
That's right. Put it in a container and eat it tomorrow. Yes, you can. That's an important one to remember.
Absolutely. And that you don't have to, when my kids were little, I used to eat the crusts. Like, honestly, what was I doing that for? But it felt like wasteful to throw it out but I think just because something is edible doesn't mean you have to eat it.
Yeah. Apples really get me with a toddler. He takes 3 bites of an apple and then puts it down. And I'm like looking at that sad apple, like, need to do something with that apple. And, sometimes I have little brisk moments of energy and I will slice it up, squeeze some lemon juice on it, put it in the fridge and serve it to them later. But other times I think it is okay just to let it go to the chickens or to green waste and just I don't need to eat all the apples just because I have a toddler in the house.
No, I know. So the second sort of area I think where people eat food is sometimes to get rid of it so they're not tempted to eat it later. Which when you spell that out, that logic is just nuts. But our brain is going, I don't want the temptation of this later, so I'm just going to eat it all now.
Yeah, in our 12-week mind-body rebalance, I know it's totally irrational, In the first week of our 12-week Mind Body Rebalance, we sort of talk about this being a prep week. You can dive straight in, or this can just be your first week to get your head around it, to understand what the real food is, the low carbohydrate real food, to sort of shop, prep, plan, prepare. And in this week, we really do sort of help people guard against this idea that, right, so I'm going low carb real food next week. I better eat everything in my house right now. I'm just going to eat all of the chocolates and the crackers and all of the cereal and all the bread because, next week I'm not going to have any. It's like this Last Supper phenomenon, but more so. And we use an analogy. It's one of your analogies, Lucy, our analogy queen, that just understand why this might not be helpful. Can you imagine, instead of it being a 12-week challenge around real food, stress management, sleep management, improving your metabolic health, imagine it was a 12-week challenge around getting your garage really, really, really organised and neat and tidy. 12-week garage cleaning challenge. Would it make much sense to then spend that first week to just go into that garage and completely trash it, to just throw paint cans everywhere, to just get all of the nuts and bolts and screws and just throw them all over the floor in a really big mess, to just grab all the tools, throw them on the ground, and to just trash the place because starting Monday next week, you're going to start tidying it? Of course it doesn't, but that's kind of what it is when you're eating the food to get rid of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, even worse, you're going around to your neighbours and going, have you got any junk that I can put in my garage? Because I'm doing a garage clean out. So if I've got extra junk in there, well, that's going to be helpful, which of course it's not, because logically that's, whereas, if you're wanting to improve your metabolic health and lose weight, basically that's what you've done. You've just added a whole heap of chaos to your body, got some of the neighbours' extra junk, put that in, and then you're starting. There's a couple of mindsets in that. One is this concept of the Last Supper. So when your brain says, I can never, ever, ever have it again, then our brain goes, what? What are you talking about? Never, ever? Well, I better make the most of it now. And so, again, some of that comes back to our, I guess, ancient thought processes around the way we used to gather food, particularly seasonal food. There would be some giant, tree of apricots or whatever that then wouldn't be available for the next 11 months. And so the brain and the body, this was helpful for them to eat it because it stored up your vitamins. It stored up a bit of extra body fat for that because, winter was coming. But we don't live, there is no winter coming. We live in this now hyper abundant environment. There is no winter.
But we are wired that way. The Hadza people in Uganda have been witnessed to climb up perilously, life-threateningly high trees to go and grab honey and be stung by bees. And when they get the honey, to eat 3 litres of it in one setting because they don't get honey very often in that particular hunter-gatherer lifestyle. And when it's available, they eat it as much as they can, which makes huge amounts of sense from a survival point of view. You want to be able to eat the sweet fruit while it's available. You get into a little bit of insulin resistance, and in that insulin resistant state, while the sugary food is available, store that extra fat. You absolutely want that because then we're going to move into a time of scarcity, and that fat storage is going to be super helpful. This is why we are prone to insulin resistance. This is why we can gain weight, and this is why we're wired for this food. But that brain wiring is so maladaptive right now in our modern society for the rest of us. And we can work with our brain to sort of overcome that, to work with that, rather than feeling like we need to eat all the food all the time because it's there.
Oh, absolutely. And, a simple thing we often recommend is that people will use the word can't. Oh, I can't eat that. And that comes from, diet plans where you'd have a plan and there would be a list of things that were on the diet and weren't on the diet. And so you can't, you're not allowed. It's all of this sort of restrictive language. Whereas, you're the boss of you. You can do whatever you want. There's no food police. No one's going to come and arrest you. You can do exactly whatever you want. You're the boss of you. There are consequences, obviously, and you need to be aware of those. But at the end of the day, it's not about whether you can or you can't. It's whether you do or you don't. So a vegetarian, they don't say to people, I can't eat meat. Because, I mean, unless I guess if their vegetarian or veganism is imposed upon them by maybe religious beliefs, maybe they say, I can't eat. Although even then, most of them would say something like, oh, I don't eat bacon because I'm Jewish, or I don't eat pork because I'm Muslim. They don't say I can't. So I think for us, it's really empowering to say that, I don't eat cake. I don't eat cake. So much better than I can't eat cake. I'm so sad I can't eat cake. People go, why can't you eat cake? I'm on a diet. What? You're on a diet? You got to live. You got to live.
Oh, just have a little bit. It's a celebration. Come on.
Yeah.
This birthday cake won't ever be available ever again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So certainly that's empowering to say don't versus can't. The second thing is that if by saying those words in your mind that you can never, ever have them again, triggers this concept of the Last Supper, what you can say to yourself is that you're just not going to have it for the moment. It's not about never, ever. It's for the moment. It's not helpful for me to have this, insert whatever food it is. So it doesn't mean never, ever again in the future, because maybe your brain's not ready to focus on that, and that feels really hard for some people. So it's just for the moment. For the moment, I'm not going to have that food. Or for the moment, I don't eat cake. And that can be really helpful for your brain as well.
Yes. Another way in which we are vulnerable to this scarcity idea with food is that it's used in marketing. Like, this particular mindset is preyed upon by food companies particularly marketing their processed foods to us. They'll use scarcity as a tactic because it works.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to joke that I was a marketer's dream client, because I kind of was. Anything that had a shiny star slapped on it, anything that said limited offer, I was in there having it, even if I didn't really want it, just because, I might never, ever get this opportunity to have it again. And I mean, how's this for a joke? There was a time that Cadbury partnered with Vegemite and made Vegemite chocolate. It was disgusting. It was so gross. I bought it and I ate it all. I didn't even like it. It was terrible. It was the worst product ever. But, I would never get that opportunity to try it ever again.
Yes, absolutely. They preyed straight into that perfectly human mindset trait of yours. Or about we're coming into Christmas now, and the chocolate Santa marshmallows are already on the shelves and they are there. And it's like, you better eat them now, because, this is Christmas time. You can only eat these particular chocolate-coated marshmallows at Christmas time. And we do fall into that, we will. We'll buy them. We'll get them now, eat them now. But, of course, this is all a fallacy. In today's day and age, you can get chocolate-coated marshmallows at any point in time. They may or may not be wrapped in, elves and Santa foil, but chocolate-coated marshmallows are everywhere. Hot cross buns, it's just raisin bread. It's available all year round. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. You can get all these things all year round.
It is. Christmas shortbreads, you can buy them all year round. They're just not in the shape of Christmas trees. Yeah, absolutely right. There is almost nothing now on earth that is limited, because honestly, you can buy it online. Christmas puddings you can buy any time of the year. And Christmas cake is just fruit cake. You can buy that any time of the year.
We're not suggesting that you need to go out and buy fruitcake at any time of the year. We're just using this to understand, so that you can understand that there is no real scarcity. You see through this marketing mischief. So when your brain tells you the story that, I'm only going to be able to get this now, this will never be available again, it will be. Just recognize that story for what it is. And you can tell yourself, look, I'm just not having this now, and I can absolutely have it later. And you can have it later if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what we need to do is work out what is the most useful belief. Is it useful for us to believe that we need to eat everything on our plate because there are children starving in Africa? Probably not useful. Could it be useful to believe that your body is not the bin, that you are allowed to throw food out if you want to? Probably useful. You get to decide, because you're the boss. I'm not telling you what to think or believe, but you can decide. But what we always want to do is start thinking and this is our series coming up over the next few weeks, is what are just things that I accept as fact when then they're not actually facts. They're just beliefs that we have never thought to challenge, that we have just gone along with, but that don't actually serve us. That's actually the key to mind management. So there we go.
It is. Recognizing those beliefs and asking yourself, is this helpful?
Indeed. Good. I'm looking forward to busting through some of these over the next few weeks. So, my lovely friends, we will catch up with you next week.
Bye now.
The information shared on the Real Health and Weight Loss podcast, including show notes and links, provides general information only. It is not a substitute, nor is it intended to provide individualised medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor can it be construed as such. Please consult your doctor for any medical concerns.